Hey guys, welcome to You Fix It Garage. This is going to be a two-part video series. In the first video, I'm going to show you how to take the area behind the rear seat of your Toyota Tacoma truck and turn it into lockable, secure storage so that you can put valuables out back there and keep them out of the hands of thieves. In the second part of the video, I'm going to show you how to build one badass gun rack back there, because what guy doesn't want a badass gun rack in his truck? Before I get too deep into this modification, I want to explain what it is and what we're trying to accomplish at the end. Toyota Tacoma trucks have a manual pull handle that you pull, which releases the rear seat and allows it to lay forward, and there's storage area behind the rear seat. The problem with that is that anything you put back there is open for thieves if they happen to break into your vehicle or you forget to lock it, and they know how to lay the seats down. They can take your things. So in this modification, we're going to do away with the manual release on the seat, and we're going to replace it with an electric switch activated servo and a hidden switch. And so then anybody that happens to break into your truck or gets into your truck, unless they know how to operate the switch, will not be able to get back there. There's a few things to know before we get started. One is the difficulty level of this modification. A lot of people are going to find the wiring very intimidating on this mod. But as long as you have good mechanical sensibilities and average tools, you can get through it. I do suggest that you learn how to solder and you get a soldering gun if you don't have one. The ability to solder the wires together rather than using crimp fittings is going to save you a lot of headaches. The crimp fittings, sometimes you can get a loose circuit and that sort of thing, and soldering is just a much more secure way to go. But other than that, don't be intimidated. You can do this modification. This modification should take you between 4 to 8 hours, depending on how proficient you are with the wiring. And the cost of this modification should be somewhere around $100, depending on the parts that you buy to accomplish it. So with all that said, let's get into the mod. The easiest way to do this is to make yourself as much room as possible. So go ahead and slide your front seats all the way forward, and then you're going to take the seat bottoms out. These are 14mm bolts, and if you notice, there's a hole right here on both of these, and so you don't have to flip it up and try and get a ratchet. You can actually just leave it laid down like that. And I'm going to use a DeWalt impact driver with a 14mm bit on it and take those off. Same thing on the other side. That'll get your seat bottoms out of the way. Once you've got the seat bottoms out of the way, the next thing you're going to do is remove these trays right here. This is not an absolute necessity depending on how you wire your switch up, but for mine, to run the wiring and where I'm going to put a hidden switch, I'm going to need to take these out. You may need to too. These are just held in by little push fasteners, and I'm using a automotive trim tool that I got off of Amazon to take those off. So I'll just pry all those loose, take the jack out, and that whole assembly will come up out of there. Okay, I've moved around to the passenger side of the vehicle now. I've got the tray pulled out, and the next thing that needs to come out or loose is this seat belt right here. And where that's attached is right down here. This is a 14mm bolt. So just take that 14mm bolt loose, and that will take this seat belt loose. All right, once you get that seat belt loose, it'll just retract up into the seat there. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to lay both seat backs all the way down, and that's going to give you access to the little plastic container back here in the back, or the plastic storage that Toyota puts in here that sucks because they put this in the middle and you can't store anything long. So we're going to pull that out. I've already taken the bolts out of mine, but you're going to have 3, I believe those are 10mm bolts, but you're going to take those 3 out. On the other side, there's also 3. There's one here, one over there, and one at the bottom. Once those are out, this is really just snapped in. There's some little clips on the back side, and if you'll grab it right here at the edge, you've got to pull pretty hard, and you can pull this out and pull that other side out, and once it rocks forward, the whole assembly will come up and out once you get it unsnapped from in there. But once you got the plastic storage container out of there, the next step is to remove the seat backs from the truck. And to do that, you're going to access the bolts that hold the seat backs to the hinges. That's accessed just by pulling these things off all the way across. And there's a 12mm bolt. There's actually 4 12mm bolts across there. Take those bolts loose, the seat back will come completely out of the truck. Then you can take a Phillips screwdriver and access the Phillips screws that hold this plastic on. Once that plastic is out of the way, I will show you how to get the rest of the cushioning off the seat and start installing the servos. This is the driver's side seat. We're going to take the upholstery off of it, and it's just a matter of unclipping all of the different clips and then taking the headrest posts out. So I'm going to get this unclipped, and then I'll show you how to get those headrest posts out. There'll be one here and one here, and all you've got to do is pinch on the sides of them and push them out. There's little clips on the sides right here, so you just pinch those, push them out, and then you can pull the frame out of the seat. With the headrest post removed, then it's just a matter of lifting up on the bottom of the frame of the seat, and everything else will pull out. You'll have a pull handle right here that it goes through the seat, but if you just pull on it, it'll pull loose. Mine's not there because I've already been working on this and kind of prototyping. So we're going to flip it over, and what we're focusing on is mounting a solenoid here that will pull this in this direction. Here's the stock solenoid with both the tabs on the bottom of it. This is the solenoid I modified. I cut the tab off of one side of it so that it will fit tighter up against the bracket right there. And then I made some bends right here, and I actually ended up drilling an extra hole. Here's the solenoid attached to the frame. I just used 2 screws on this side to hold it on. Now the next thing that I need to do is change the direction of the pull of the solenoid, because it's going to pull this way and I need it to pull back this way in order to undo the latch. I'm going to use this little pulley right here, and I'm going to take a Dremel tool, cut this frame, install this pulley on it, and bend it around so that it holds it in place. All right, here's what I came up with. Once I cut this bracket, I just cut this other side off, but I cut it about in the middle, and then I added the pulley and just bent this around to hold it in place. And then I put the cable on here, just use these little crimp fittings to attach the cable, and then attached it to the other side, and I left enough slack so that when this plunger gets retracted, it will pull that latch before the plunger bottoms out. But here's a look at the passenger side, the large, long seat, once I got the solenoid put in it. And on this one, I didn't cut that tab off. I left it on there, and I screwed it down first, and then I just took a pair of pliers and squeezed and bent this one down and screwed it in place, and that made it very secure, and I like that a little bit better. Try and give you a view of how I cut this, bent it around, got the pulley right there, and then I just took off the piece of metal that was right here and put the cable onto it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install both of these frames back in the truck without the seat cushions on them, so that I can test them and still get to the mechanism in case it doesn't release. In order to power the solenoids on the seats, you're going to need a relay system. If you wire the solenoids directly to a switch going to your battery, you're either going to burn up the switch or blow a fuse, because the solenoids pull a lot of amperage. So what I've got here is this recoil system that I ordered off of Amazon, and I'll provide a link to that in the description. But it came with 2 fuses, 2 solenoids, and 2 solenoid sockets. That allows me to put a 40 amp fuse in line from the battery to the solenoids and then power the switches that way. And I want to spend a few minutes going through the wires, because what Amazon's got on their website is not entirely clear about how to wire it up. So I want to help you out there. So we'll start here with the yellow wire. The yellow wire is not used on this installation. The next one is the red wire coming into the socket. This wire runs all the way to the positive on the battery. So you're going to come from the positive on your battery all the way through the firewall into the truck, and then you're going to split off from this relay to the other relay. So you'll have 2 relays tied to it all the way back to your sockets. Coming on around to the next wire, and this is where it's confusing with what Amazon has on their website. It says black ground on it. If you're going to use a positive switch system, in other words, you're running positive from the positive of the battery through your switch, you can run this to ground. I'm using a negative activated switch or a ground activated switch, so this black wire has to be positive. So all I did was wire the black wire to the positive lead, and that took care of that. So moving on around, the blue wire goes to the solenoid, that goes to the positive of the solenoid, and then the other wire coming out of your solenoid, you just run it to ground on the body of the truck. The next wire on here is the white wire. It's actually the last wire, and it's going to run to the switch. Now again, I used a ground activated switch, meaning it's just from the ground on the body of the truck back to the relay. So if you use this kit, this should help you out. If you use a different kit, just be sure and follow the wire diagram that they have. Decide whether you're going to run a ground activated switch or a positive activated switch, and you shouldn't have any problems. What you use to switch your solenoids is really up to you. You can use a physical switch like I'm using, or you could use a biometric switch that reads your thumbprint. There's any number of things, a combination lock switch to activate the seat. I'm just kind of keeping it simple. I've got these little plunger switches that I'm going to use, and the reason I chose these is because that the push button part is a little bit recessed right there. I'm going to drill a hole and put it underneath the carpet so that the carpet covers this up and you can't see it, but when I run my hand along, I'll be able to feel that little bit of a rise and push my hidden switch to unlock my seat. I don't want to get too deep into the wiring on this because there's a lot of different ways to do it, but if you stick with the wiring diagram I showed, you should be fine. For those that have never ran a wire from your battery back into the cab of your vehicle, I just tied it directly onto the positive side of the battery right here. I put an inline 40 amp fuse, and then to go through the firewall, I traced right along where the hood latch cable comes through that rubber boot right there, and that goes inside right behind the left hand side or the driver's side kick panel. And I just used a coat hanger and taped the wire to the coat hanger and then kind of stuffed it through there and pulled it on through. So once I got through, I tucked the wire behind this kick panel, ran it down. This little panel just pops off. So I ran it down this track right along with the factory wiring. Same thing back here, popped this loose, ran it along, and then right underneath, and it comes up under and inside here. I've got my relays tucked in this little hollow space back here, and all my wiring is wired up back there. I'll show you where I put my switches. That is the switch on the passenger side, and it's just run to ground right there. And then back over here, there's the switch on the driver's side, and it's behind the carpet, so looking at it from this side you don't see it, but that's where it's at, and I can feel it with my finger. So this has got everything put in and tested. It's all testing out good. The relays are working good, the solenoids are working good, and the seats are popping. So now I'm going to put that tray back in, and I'm going to put the upholstery back on the seats and then double check everything. Here are the seats installed back in the vehicle. Once the tray was put back in underneath this seat, there's absolutely no indication of a modification to the vehicle other than the handle right here is gone, and so there's no way to lay this seat down without either tearing the seat up or knowing where the switch is. And the switch is very hidden behind the carpet. I know where it's at, and I still have to feel around for it to try and get to it. But one push of it, and now the seat is released. So guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to see the second half of this video, I'm going to build that gun rack back here. I'm going to show how to do that. So please like and subscribe. If you've got questions about some portion of this mod or you run into problems, please post them in the comments and I'll be happy to help you out. You guys have a great day.